Goeiemôre graad 12 en welkom by vandag se Afrikaans eerste addisionele les. Good morning grade 12 and welcome to today's Afrikaans first additional language lesson. Aan die einde van die les sal jy die gedig rondom my begryp. At the end of the lesson, you will be able to comprehend the poem rondom my. Jy sal sekere poëtiese aspekte in die gedig kan identifiseer. You will be able to identify certain poetic devices in the poem en jy sal vrae rakende die gedig kan beantwoord. You will be able to answer questions from past papers. Kom ons lees deur die gedig. I'm going to read through the poem and then we are going to look at the English translation. I've tried to translate it line by line. However, sometimes in English, once you've translated it doesn't always make sense. Rondom my, deur Dawie die Jager. Ek wil my tyd vat hierdie keer. Ek moet my tyd vat hierdie keer. Want die haastigheid in my het my al veel keer ondergekry, my ondergekry. Ek wil my tyd vat hierdie keer. Ek moet my tyd vat hierdie keer. Ek sien die blou in jou, deur die bietjie in jou oë. Ek weet, daar is dinge wat jou ook nog pla, dinge wat jou terughou. Kom wys my wie jy is en wie jy graag wil wees. Kom wees net jy, kom wees net jy. As jy wil tyd vat hierdie keer, kom vat 'n rukkie hier by my. As jy wil tyd vat, kom wees hier rondom my. Kom wees hier rondom my, net as jy wil, net as jy wil. Okay, so if we look at the title, it translates to around me, and the speaker says the following. He says, I want to take my time this time. I must take my time this time, because the hastiness in me has already far too many times got me down. So the speaker wants to build a relationship with a girl that he has fallen in love with, but he says every time he rushes into a relationship, and that causes him to feel depressed because these relationships never work out. In stanza 2, it says, I want to take my time this time. I must take my time this time. I see the blue in you through the little in your eyes. I know there are things that also still bother you, things that hold you back. Come show me who you are and who you would like to be. Come and be just you. Come and be just you. So he says he wants to take his time. He must take his time. When he says, I see the blue in you through the little in your eyes, he says that he can see that she is still hurting because her previous relationships have also failed. He says, yeah, I know there are things that also still bother you, things that hold you back. Maybe she got hurt in previous relationships, so she's not comfortable going into a new relationship and showing him who she truly is. But then he invites her and he says, come show me who you are and who you would like to be. Come and be just you. Come and be just you. Then in stanza 3 he says, if you want to take time this time, come take a moment here by me. If you want to take time, come and be here around me. Come and be here around me. Only if you want to. Only if you want to. So now there's a switch in the poem. It was all about the speaker and what he wants to do. But in stanza 3, there's a change where he says, he makes it her option. He says, if you want to take time, I would like it. If you spend some time with me, be close to me, but only if you want to. Okay, so it's good to know what the poem is all about. Then you understand the content, and then it is much easier to make sense of questions as well towards the end. Okay, so let's analyze the poem. I'm going to do it stanza by stanza. So kom ons kyk. Die heel eerste ding waarna jy kyk is die titel. You always look at the title, rondom my. Die titel sê vir ons die spreker soek sy geliefde naby hom. The title is telling us that the speaker wants his loved one close to him. Then we have a look. Hierdie persoon, Dawie die Jager, is die digter. He is the poet. Don't confuse the poet with the speaker. They are often not the same person. So Dawie die Jager is actually a member of the music band Klopjag. Okay, so he's the poet of this poem. Now, you always need to know the type of poem. So hierdie tipe gedig is 'n lyriek of 'n lied. Okay, it's a lyrical poem. It was written that someone could sing it. Okay, so let's look at the first stanza. Ek wil my tyd vat hierdie keer. So at the start we've got ek. So ek sê hierso, die ek-spreker word beklemtoon deur tipografiese voorplasing. So the first person speaker gets emphasized by placing the word at the start of the line. Okay, that is what tipografiese voorplasing means. On purpose, he has put ek at the start. You will see in stanza 2, ek is also at the beginning of each line. Hierdie keer sê vir ons hierdie verhouding is vir die spreker anders as vorige verhoudings. It's telling us that this relationship for the speaker is different than the previous relationship. This time he wants to take his time because most probably this time he likes the girl more than he did the previous girls. Okay, then very important. In this poem there's a lot of repetition. Okay, so I said, yeah, ek wil my tyd vat hierdie keer, ek moet my tyd vat hierdie keer. So with the exception of the will and moet, the lines are repeated. So ek sê hierso herhaling, beklemtoon dat die verhouding beteken meer vir die spreker as enige van sy vorige verhoudings. The repetition here is emphasizing. Remember, you do not write down emphasier. There is no such word in the Afrikaans vocabulary. You write down the beklemtoon. Okay, so it emphasizes that the relationship means more to the speaker than any of the previous relationships. I know there's a joke, my kids always joke in class that you'll get the mark if you just write down te beklemtoon. However, that is not the case. You have to say what is being emphasized. While we're on herhaling, repetition, when you study for your paper 2 at the end of the year, and you study the 10 poems, and I know it's a lot of poems to study, but if you study the 10 poems, when you close your eyes and you think of the 10 poems, there are certain things that they will always ask about certain of these poems. And in Rondom My, they always ask about herhaling. They will ask about the repetition because there's so much repetition in the poem. Okay, so try and close your eyes when studying before any test or exam and think, okay, I've now studied these 4 poems. What are the 4 major things that they can always ask in these poems? Okay, because then already you're more comfortable with the content. Okay, so I underlined the E, feels te veel keer. Now dit is halfrym. Halfrym is the overall terminology for assonansie and alliteration. Okay, it's important terminology to know because they can ask you the following. Watter tipe halfrym kom in reël 4 voor? If you know halfrym is alliteration and assonansie, you already know you have to choose between the two and there is nothing else that can actually, that it can be. Okay, so that is extremely important to know the overall terminology. So hierso is die halfrym dan assonansie Assonance and alliteration is important in a poem because it enhances the sound of the song. Okay, I've written it on the next slide, but that's just important to remember. Then we've got the word ondergekry all by itself in the line. So alleenplasing versterk die spreker se hulpelose en moedelose gevoel. By placing this word on its own in a line, that is what alleenplasing means, right? It emphasizes the speaker's hopelessness that he has felt every single time these relationships haven't worked out. And then you'll see line 5 and 6 are actually repeating as well. He says, het my al te veel keer ondergekry, my ondergekry. So ek sê die herhaling is die effek van die vorige mislukte verhoudings op die spreker word beklemtoon. So the effect of the previous relationships that haven't worked gets emphasized. Now, because we're busy with the song, in this poem, die herhaling van reels 1 en 2 dien as 'n tipe refrein. So line 1 and 2 is repeated again in stanza 2, and then the repetition of those lines can be seen as a type of chorus. Okay, dis wat die woord refrein beteken. The word refrein means chorus. Okay, stanza 2. Ek wil my tyd vat hierdie keer, ek moet my tyd vat hierdie keer. Now, in this poem, there is also progression happening, and we can see this in line 7 and 8. In line 7, it says ek wil. If I say I want to, then I've got a choice. As ek sê ek wil, dan het jy 'n keuse. However, if I say ek moet, I must do something, dan het jy nie 'n keuse nie. Then you don't have a choice. So he first expresses his wish, and then he realizes this is something that he has to do. So there's a progression in his thoughts. Okay. Then I said, ek sien die blou in jou deur die piek in jou oë. The word blou here is woordspeling. It's a bit of wordplay. Die blou verwys na haar oogkleur. The blue is referring to her eye color. Maar die blou verwys ook na hoe sy voel. It's also referring to how she's feeling, en dit is depressief. It's a feeling of being depressed. Now, die blou in jou can also be seen as a metaphor, as a metaphor to refer to how she's feeling. Okay, so remember in Afrikaans, the overall terminology for a metaphor, personification, and a comparison or a simile is called beeldspraak. So beeldspraak is the overall terminology for metafoor, vergelyking, and personifikasie. Okay, that is important. When he speaks about the jou in the poem, he is addressing the person that he has fallen in love with. So die aangesprokene is the person being addressed, and that is sy geliefde. It's the person that he now loves. Once again, I have indicated the alliteration in line 12. Wys my wie jy is en wie jy graag wil wees. Okay, and I said, yeah, dit versterk die klankrykheid. It emphasizes the sound in the poem. Right, en dan sê dit hier, kom wees net jy, in line 13, die belangrikste ding in 'n verhouding is om jouself te wees. The most important thing in a relationship is to actually be yourself. Now, in the previous slide, we spoke about typografiese voorplasing, and you will see in line 7 to 10, the ek, every single time, is at the start of the line as well. So it's all about what he wants. Ek het ook gesê, let op, please take note. Elke strofe begin met 'n hoofletter en eindig met 'n punt. Dit dui daarop dat elke strofe 'n nuwe idee in die groter geheel is. Okay, so every stanza in this poem starts with a capital letter and ends with a full stop, and that indicates that every stanza is a new idea in the bigger picture. Okay, dan as ons kyk na strofe 3, if we look at stanza 3, as jy wil tyd vat hierdie keer. Now there's progression again. Okay, that's important. Die spreker gee die geliefde die opsie om te kies of sy by hom wil wees. He has now changed. In stanza 1 and 2, it was all about what he wanted. It says, I want to take my time. I must take my time. Okay. Now, in the last stanza, there's progression. He now goes to what he thinks the loved one would like. So he goes, if you want to take time, come take a little bit of time close to me. So he now focuses on her. So therefore, there's progression because he now gives her the option as to what she wants to do. Then in this poem, because there is not a lot of other punctuation, if they do ask a punctuation question, they will ask about the ellipsis, the ellipse. Okay, en dit is die gedagtes nie voltooi nie. Die ellipse gee die leser die kans om woorde in te vul om die gedagte te voltooi. So by using the ellipsis, the thought is not completed. So it gives the reader the chance to complete the thought. Now, if I was to ask a question on rondom my, and I had to ask a question that is asking you to think, not a question that comes straight from the text itself, so level 5 question, I would actually ask you something like, voltooi die sin in reël 19 om by die inhoud van die gedig te pas. I will then ask, for example, for you to complete line 19 by keeping the content of the poem in mind. So I would, as an answer, then want something like, net as jy wil naby my wees, of net as jy wil rondom my wees. Okay, so think about what you would fill in place of the ellipses, because it can be asked. Now, for every single poem, you do need to know the theme, and I know it's a lot of themes that you have to remember. My suggestion is that on a piece of paper, you list your 10 poems, and next to them, write the various themes, that it's all on one page, and then it is easier to study and easier to remember. So in this poem, I've written down as a theme, moenie haastig wees nie, vir alles wat by verhoudings kom. Okay, so don't rush, especially if it comes to relationships. However, if you wrote as a theme die liefde, of hoe 'n mens verhoudings moet benader, you would also get the mark. So if you said the theme is love, or how to approach relationships, you will also get the mark. Dan baie belangrik, stemming, the tone of the poem, beide die spreker en aangesprokene is versigtig om in verhoudings betrokke te raak. Both speaker and the person being addressed, the person he's fallen in love with, they are careful in their approach to relationships. Okay, so dit is belangrik. Okay, so now I have taken an example question on the rondom my, right, that I thought we could work through, and let's have a look. So 9.1 says, watter kenmerk van hierdie gedig maak van dit 'n lyriek? Okay, so the word kenmerk means characteristic. Okay, so what characteristic of this poem makes it a lyrical poem? And I said to you when we went through this poem that it is very important to focus on the repetition that we see in the poem, and that is something that you can then write down, because part of a song, part of a lyrical poem, is that lines are repeated to serve as a type of chorus. We've discussed this already. So then you can just write down as an answer die reëls wat herhaal word. Then 9.2.1, haal twee agtereenvolgende woorde uit strofe 1 aan wat daarop dui dat die spreker al in vorige verhoudings betrokke was. Now, the words haal twee agtereenvolgende woorde aan, right? You only quote two words standing directly next to one another. We spoke about this type of question yesterday when we discussed the comprehension and the answering of the comprehension. However, in the comprehension test, it was said, haal twee opeenvolgende woorde uit die teks aan. The word opeenvolgende en agtereenvolgende is actually exactly the same, right? So please, only two words. If you quote three words, they are only marking the first two words. And let's say you decided that the answer is in hierdie keer, then they look at the first two words and it's in hierdie and you don't get any marks. Right, whereas if you just wrote your two words and it was hierdie keer, then you will get your marks. Goed, dan 9.2.2 vraag, watter woord in strofe 1 sê vir ons dat hy hierdie keer nie 'n keuse het in sy anderse benadering? What word in stanza 1 tells us that he does not have a choice? Okay, in the way he approaches this benadering, this relationship, and we've discussed this, it is the word moet. Okay, now question 9.3. Watter ironiese teenstelling is daar tussen die titel en reël 14? En dit is vir 2 punte, it's for 2 marks. Now, ironiese teenstelling is ironic contrast. Now, any irony-related question is worth 2 marks, but you either get 0 out of 2 or you're going to get 2 out of 2 because you have to state both sides. Even if the one side was correct, if you haven't stated the ironic contrast on the other side, you will not get any marks awarded to you. So it's extremely important when you are answering irony questions that you look at both sides of the question. So I said here, in reël 14 wil hy vir haar ruimte gee, maar in die titel is dit duidelik dat hy haar terselfdertyd naby hom wil hê. So in line 14, he wants to give her space. However, in the title, it is obvious that he wants her to be close to him or to spend time with him. Okay, so the 1 mark would be for the space he wants to give her, and the 2nd mark would be for the fact that he actually wants her to spend as much time as possible close to him. Goed, dan, watter karaktertrek van die spreker het sy vorige verhoudings laat val? Which characteristic of the speaker caused his previous relationships to fail? That's the word fall. Sy oorhaastigheid. The fact that he rushed into things were the reason that his previous relationships did not work. Okay, so if you just wrote haastigheid as it appears in the poem, you will be awarded the mark as well. Wat wil die digter beklemtoon deur die herhaling van ondergekry in reëls 5 en 6? Now, once again, they are asking a question about repetition. Okay, we had an answer here that included repetition. Now we've got a question about the repetition of lines 5 and 6. Okay. Hy wil beklemtoon dat sy vorige mislukte verhoudings hom pyn veroorsaak het. By repeating, het my al veel te veel keer ondergekry, my ondergekry. By repeating line 5 and 6, he is emphasizing that his previous failed relationships have caused him a lot of pain. 9.6. Hoe weet die spreker dat daar nog onsekerheid by sy geliefde is oor hul verhouding? So how does the speaker know that she is still unsure, onsekerheid, about the relationship? Want hy kan dit in haar oë sien. He can see it in her eyes. Okay. En dan 6.2, wat is die blou wat hy in haar oë sien? What is the blue that he sees in her eyes? Okay, en dit is die hartseer of onsekerheid van die vorige verhouding. That's the sadness that she has, that he can still see in her eyes because the previous relationships didn't work out. The fact that she's unsure about herself and approaching this relationship. I mean, we often say, oh, I'm feeling blue. This is what he's seeing in her. He's seeing that there's an amount of sadness, unhappiness because the previous relationships didn't work out, and she's scared that it's going to happen again. Met 9.7.1, wat wil die spreker volgens reël 12 hierdie keer eers doen voordat hy ernstig raak met die verhouding? So what does the speaker want to do according to line 12 this time before he gets serious in the relationship? Hy wil haar eers leer ken. He first wants to get to know her. Then 9.7.2. Waarom is dit reg dat die spreker hierdie besluit neem soos by vraag 9.7.1 genoem, gee 2 feite. Okay, so this question builds on question 9.7.1. It's asking why is it right that the speaker makes this decision to get to know her better as mentioned in question 9.7.1. Now they want 2 facts, it's for 2 marks. Please do not bullet point your answers like I have done. I have done it for the purpose of this presentation. I will explain to you why you should not bullet point your answers. So let's say, for example, you have made your first bullet point. Hulle sal mekaar beter verstaan en hulle sal dan besluit of hulle wil voortgaan met die verhouding. So you have put in your first bullet point 2 facts, these 2 facts. Then in the second bullet point, you then write down something that is completely wrong. You are then only going to get 1 out of 2 marks. Even though in your first sentence, you have written down the 2 facts, that first sentence, because it's been bullet pointed, is seen then as 1 mark worth of work. So please don't bullet point, write it in sentences and join it with the N, because then you are sure that they're going to read everything. Okay, so hulle sal mekaar beter verstaan. By getting to know her first, it is the right decision because then they're going to understand one another better. En hulle sal dan besluit of hulle wil voortgaan met die verhouding. They will then decide if they want to continue with the relationship. En dan die laaste paar vrae, 9.8. Waarom is die paarrym in hierdie gedig baie gepas? Now, a question like this, the paarrym, so that's when lines 1 and 2 and lines 3 and 4 rhyme, okay, isn't very apparent in this poem because it's often the same word at the end of the line. However, they're asking this question because paarrym, you see the word paar, links to the word paartjie, which means couple. So the poem is about a couple, so the two being next to each other, just like line 1 and 2's words would rhyme one after the other. Okay. Waarom herhaal die digter die titel in reël 17 en 18 gee twee redes? Now this is our third question in this poem on repetition. So 4 out of the 18 marks has already been related to repetition. Okay, so why does the poet repeat the title in lines 17 and 18? But dit bind die gedig tot 'n eenheid. It makes it makes the poem become a unit, so it creates unity. En dit beklemtoon dat hy sy geliefde naby hom soek. It emphasizes that he wants his loved one close to him. Okay, now question 9.10. Dink jy nie dat die spreker 'n bietjie selfsugtigheid teenoor sy geliefde openbaar nie, motiveer jou antwoord? Now it's your own opinion. A question like question 9.10, you are not going to find the answer necessarily in the poem or in the text. You have to give your opinion. You do not get marks for the ja or the nee. You get the mark for the reason. However, your ja and nee has to be spelled correctly, and the ja needs to go with the right reason, and the nee has to link with the reason you've given to get the 1 mark. So I've given 2 options. There's a lot of options here that you can actually write down. I've just written 2. I've given 2 options, a ja and a nee option, just that you can see. So do you think the speaker is displaying a little bit of selfishness towards his loved one? Ek het gesê nee. Please look how nee is spelled. It is not spelled N-I-E. Okay, N-I-E is nie. It's the word that we use when we are writing in the negative. This, N-E-E, means no. Nee, hy is nie selfsugtig nie. He's not selfish, want hy wil haar nie verloor nie en gee haar die keuse om te besluit of sy meer tyd met hom wil spandeer. He doesn't want to lose her, and he's giving her the choice to decide if she wants to spend more time with him. So that is not selfish. Or if you said ja, please look at the spelling of ja. You guys tend to spell it Y-A. Yeah? Don't know what, I don't even know how to pronounce that word. It sounds like your Afrikaans rapper if you want to spell it Y-A. Right? It's J-A, ja. But hy gee haar nie baie ruimte nie. He doesn't give her a lot of space because he wants her close to him. But here, as long as your reason links with the ja of the nee, and it links to the content of the poem, you will get awarded marks. Met watter woord in strofe 1 vorm tyd vat 'n kontras? So with what word in stanza 1 does the word take time form a contrast? And that's with the word haastigheid. Okay, if you're in a hurry, that's in contrast with taking your time. And then lastly, watter houding by die spreker word deur reëls 19 en 20 openbaar? What attitude, that's houding, do we see from the speaker in lines 19 to 20? Goed, hy wil nie aan sy geliefde voorskryf nie. He doesn't want to be descriptive. He doesn't want to tell her what to do. Of hy het begrip vir haar gevoelens. He understands her feelings. Now in the final exams, your prelim exams as well, you will be asked 2 poems in the poetry section. You have to answer both the poems, and then one poem will be worth 17 marks and the other poem will be worth 18 marks. And that is how the poetry is set up at the end of the year. Nou onthou, remember the following. Gedigte is leerwerk. Poetry is absolutely work that you have to study, right? Daar is sekere goed wat altyd gevra gaan word. There are certain things that will always be asked, Right, in hierdie gedig byvoorbeeld is herhaling baie belangrik. In this poem, for example, repetition is very important. We saw that three of the questions with 4 marks in total were on herhaling. Okay, en dan sê ek, maak seker jy ken die inhoud van elke gedig baie goed. You need to know the content of each poem really well. Okay, you should approach this as a scene comprehension. Right, you have already seen the text, you have notes on the text, and all that is happening now is that questions are being asked on the text and you have to answer those questions. Okay, so I hope you join me again tomorrow for my lesson. I'm going to discuss the poem Palimpsest, quite a difficult poem. En vrae uit 'n ou vraestel gaan bespreek word. Once again, we are going to discuss questions from a past paper. I look forward to seeing you guys again tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. Please follow us on social media at hashtag LockdownESchool, hashtag FAL Foundation, hashtag STEM Champions, at Africa Team Geek, at DBE_SA, and on YouTube, Africa Team Geek. Goodbye guys, see you tomorrow, have a great day.